It's a major week on the cobbles next week, as evil teacher Megan Walsh goes on trial for grooming pupil Will Driscoll. It looks like Will is going to make the brave decision to speak out in court, but will that lead to the family getting the justice they've been fighting for? Regardless of the outcome, there are a lot of fractions within the Driscoll clan at the moment, with one big change on the horizon. This is evident in the relationship between Ben and Ollie, with the father-son duo at loggerheads. Things are fractured, explained Aaron McCusker, who plays Ben. Ollie thinks Ben is handling the Will situation wrong and went behind his back to call Will's mom. This leads to arguing, and ultimately he will leave to work for a new boss, Idris, who Ben doesn't trust. The Megan situation has affected the entire family dynamic trust. It's difficult because our relationship is a bit flawed right now, said the actor, who made his debut on the ITV soap in October. While Ben and Ollie are quarreling, the relationship between Ben and Eva Price has only strengthened, with McCusker noting, it's brought them closer. When Ben's down, she's the one pulling him up. They are very strong. I think it has given the audience a bit of an illustration of just what a united couple they are. It has also brought Ben and Maggie a little closer again, though he won't ever forget what she did. Of course, the Driscolls will unite during the upcoming court trial, with the clan rallying around Will following his ordeal. He also found support from Tim Metcalfe, and Ben is grateful for the advice. Tim has been great, said McCusker. He's talked Will down when he was going to do things he shouldn't. It has worked well. It's an unspoken acknowledgement. Ben lets him know that he appreciates what he's done. Their relationship has strengthened because of it. Previously, Tim felt like he had his nose pushed out a bit with Steve and Ben growing closer, but now they are more of a band of brothers. The courtroom had finally fallen silent. After weeks of emotional testimony, painful memories, and tense confrontations, the jury had delivered its verdict in the trial that had gripped Weatherfield. The case against Megan Walsh had left everyone emotionally drained, but for the Driscoll family, the verdict wasn't the end of their nightmare, it was only the beginning. The courthouse steps became a battlefield of flashing cameras and shouting reporters as Ben Driscoll emerged with Will by his side. Eva placed a protective arm around Susie while Maggie tried to shield her grandson from the relentless media attention. Will couldn't hear the questions. He barely noticed the cameras. All he could think about was the moment he had looked across the courtroom and seen Megan staring back at him with an expression he would never forget. The memories refused to disappear. Back on Coronation Street, the atmosphere inside the Rovers was unusually subdued. Residents watched quietly as the Driscolls returned home. No one knew exactly what to say. Some offered hugs. Others simply nodded with sympathy. Tim gently placed a hand on Ben's shoulder. You did everything you could. Ben forced a weak smile. It still doesn't feel like enough. The trial had exposed every painful chapter of Will's ordeal. Every lie, every manipulation, every heartbreaking detail had been repeated before strangers in court. Although the family had stood together throughout the proceedings, everyone could see the emotional scars were deeper than ever. The trial marked a turning point for the Driscolls, with the family preparing for major changes as they tried to rebuild their lives. That evening, Will quietly packed a small backpack. Eva spotted him standing upstairs. What are you doing? I can't stay here. Her heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Every street, every building, every person reminds me of what happened. Eva gently hugged him. You don't have to run. I'm not running. I'm trying to breathe. Downstairs, Ben received an unexpected phone call. It was Melanie. Will's mother had watched every day of the trial from a distance, struggling with guilt over everything her son had endured. I've been thinking, she said. What about? Maybe Will needs a fresh start. Ben remained silent. Come and stay with me. Those words lingered in his mind long after the call ended. The following morning, Maggie gathered everyone for breakfast. Nobody touched their food. Finally, Ollie broke the silence. I've accepted an apprenticeship. Ben looked surprised. I didn't know. I only found out yesterday. Congratulations. Ollie smiled weakly. I think it's time I stopped living in fear. For the first time in months, there was a tiny glimpse of hope. Later that afternoon, social workers visited number 6. Rather than discussing the past, they focused entirely on the future. Will would begin specialist trauma therapy. The family would receive counseling together. Regular support meetings would also help them adjust after the trial. Eva listened carefully. This isn't about fixing anyone, the therapist explained. It's about helping every member of the family heal. Those words resonated deeply. Days later, Ben called a family meeting. Everyone squeezed into the living room. I've made a decision. The room fell silent. I've accepted Melanie's offer. Maggie's face dropped. What? Will's going to stay with his mum for a while. Nobody spoke. Even Will looked shocked. You don't want me here. Ben's eyes filled with tears. I want you somewhere you can finally breathe. It isn't forever. It's a chance to recover. Eva reached across the sofa and held Will's hand. We'll visit every week. You'll always have a home here. The announcement divided Weatherfield. Some neighbors believed Ben was making a mistake. Others believed distance was exactly what Will needed. Inside Roy's Rolls, conversations quietly centered on one question. Could any family truly recover after everything that had happened? Meanwhile, another surprise was waiting. Eva revealed she'd made a life-changing decision herself. I've handed in my notice. Ben stared. What? I need more time with this family. The pub can survive. But we can't if we keep pretending everything's normal. Her decision stunned everyone. For months she'd tried to keep smiling while holding the family together. Now she was finally admitting she needed space too. Will spent his final evening wandering Weatherfield alone. He stopped outside the athletics track where everything had begun. Then he walked past the precinct. Finally, he stood outside the Rovers. Tim joined him. Nervous? Terrified? That's normal. What if leaving doesn't help? Tim smiled gently. Sometimes healing starts the moment you realize you deserve better. Departure day arrived. Suitcases filled the hallway. Maggie struggled to hide her emotions. You'll phone. Every day. You promise. I promise. She hugged him tighter than ever before. For a moment nobody wanted to let go. At the station, Ben handed Will an envelope. Open it later. As the train pulled away, Will finally looked inside. There was only one photograph. It showed the entire family smiling together shortly after arriving in Weatherfield. On the back Ben had written, "Your story isn't defined by what happened to you. It's defined by what you choose next. We'll always be waiting for you." Will smiled through tears. For the first time in months. He believed him. Back on the street, life slowly began moving again. Ollie threw himself into work. Eva focused on rebuilding herself. Ben attended counseling sessions. Even Maggie, who rarely admitted weakness, joined a support group for relatives of abuse survivors. Each of them carried invisible wounds. Each of them was learning that recovery wasn't a destination. It was a journey. Several weeks later, a postcard arrived. It showed a quiet coastline. Inside was a handwritten message. Therapy is hard. Some days I still wake up scared. But yesterday I laughed. It was only for a minute. Still, it felt like me. Love, Will. Ben quietly placed the postcard on the mantelpiece. Nobody said a word. They didn't need to. Hope had finally returned. As the camera slowly pulled away from number 6, viewers saw something they hadn't witnessed for months. The Driscoll family weren't pretending everything was perfect. They weren't trying to erase the past. Instead, they were choosing something far more powerful. A new beginning. Because sometimes the biggest change isn't moving house. It's learning that a broken family can still find its way back together, one small step at a time. The aftermath of Meghan's trial reshapes the Driscolls' future, with Will's recovery and a temporary move to live with his mother representing a significant new chapter for the family as they begin rebuilding their lives after the trauma. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Crown ST.